Good afternoon, this is TTT Live and TTT Live online on Facebook. I'm Dike with a COVID-19 review. Minister in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Lovell Francis, says the return to school must not be taken lightly in these COVID-19 times. September is the proposed month for students to return to school. And Dr. Francis says they have been receiving loads of advice, not only from local public health officials, but also from the Caribbean Public Health Agency, or CARFA. He says there are benchmarks that must be achieved for this step forward.
We have to make sure, for example, that all schools are thoroughly sanitized. And this is not the kind of sanitization that would normally happen. This has to be a special kind of sanitization. So we are actually starting to roll out a program where we're going to ensure that all schools are sanitized. We also have significant restrictions in terms of the number of students that we can have in a classroom and in terms of the number of students we can have in a school.
The minister says inclusivity in the school curriculum is also a key goal of the Ministry of Education, and it is being treated with high priority.
Because if one understands inclusive education in its real sense, and if the Ministry of Education and thus the education system is wedded to this as going to be the norm going forward, it cannot be that principals just decide to not accept students because they have some disability or because they have a special need.
In other news, thermal scanners will be in use at Caribbean Airlines to control the spread of COVID-19 among travelers. In a release, the airline said scanners at its Piarco head office in Trinidad were being introduced on a trial basis. All employees and visitors to the airline's Piarco compound will be screened to assess whether their body temperature is at an acceptable level as prescribed by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rostant. CAL said similar measures were being reviewed for offices throughout the airline's network. CEO Garvin Madeira said the implementation of thermal scanners at the head office in Piarco is just one of several precautionary measures that Caribbean Airlines has implemented in the fight against COVID-19. He is encouraging all employees and visitors to the Piarco compound to cooperate with CAL as they work to limit the spread of COVID-19. Now, this is the month of June. The first day, as in yesterday, we have been looking at the fact that bookstores have been opened. And with that in mind, we want to have a conversation with Sterling Henderson. He's a broadcast journalist, and he has something that is really on the horizon. So we say good afternoon, Mr. Henderson. How are you?
Good afternoon, Mr. Rostant. I'm well and really glad to be with you at this time. Thank you.
No, I'm wondering though, you have read at the Bocas Lit Fest and you have performed at carnival-related work events. What has really prompted you to take this step that you're making now? And actually, what is that step?
Yeah, well, what is the step? It's a multi-pronged kind of reasoning behind it, in that in one way it has to do with me graduating from Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business, where I did a Master's in Development and Innovation. And I'm yet to graduate, but this album that I'm working on, When Soca Pull My Mouth, which will be released on Wednesday, that's tomorrow, is a culmination of me writing poetry for a number of years, and as well feeling as if my speaking voice has been central to that. So it's a self-publication effort, but instead of a book, the result is an EP or an album of original spoken word poetry.
Why the album versus the written book?
Well, I think there are a lot of barriers to publication, and I really do feel as if my speaking voice, let me tell you, ever since I was a kid, the funny thing is that I started in radio just out of high school because there was more radio in Trinidad still in the 80s, and when I left A-levels, I got a job immediately working at Westmall in their in-house radio station, and then we moved to Long Circular Mall. So my voice has always been remarkable of my being, and I thought I would sort of capitalize on that, people like my voice, so I thought I'll use my spoken voice to be the vehicle for my writing as opposed to the printed word.
So we're looking at we just saw the cover art for the album, When Soca Full My Mouth. What is this? What is it about?
When Soca Full My Mouth is really about memory, and it looks at all other things that are associated with good memories for me. So the poem talks about, like, when Soca Full My Mouth, I just taste red plum, nice with Grenadian spices, and, I taste sugar, I taste tambourine ball that is melting my mouth into one sweet community. It's a whole idea about things that we taste, but also things that are intrinsically ours, like soca is. And not just as Trinidadians and Tobagonians, but as Caribbean people. I think soca after cricket becomes perhaps the most unifying thing that we have. Culture has a way of doing that. So I celebrate soca, and I celebrate all of the great things that I do love, in that poem.
And with that celebration, you're doing it in a manner called poetry. So I want you to give me a little definition. Thank you. What is poetry?
Poetry, right? Well, poetry for me is a way of defining what I do. Because if you say spoken word, people have a certain expectation. They expect you to sound like winds blew through the night and the moon shone. I sat there alone. Or this is a fight against Babylon. We will take on Babylon. And, there are certain cadences associated with spoken word. And my work is not of that. It borrows more from the recitation style, if you will, associated with written poetry. But this was written to be spoken. So at its core, it's poetry, but in essence and in reality, it's spoken. But it's not poetry and it's not spoken word, so it's poetry.
Thank you for that. And it's funny that sometimes you're just looking at the way someone walks or the way somebody does that, and you see a rhythm, you get a cadence, and it has a life in and of its own in the memory as opposed to just in the moment. And that is something that I appreciate when I can read that and just see it or hear it or feel it and totally visualize it. So like David Rudder talking about sticky mango juice running down my naked chest, or like a black woman mouth, this kind of way. But being able to carry that feeling forward is truly a blessed thing. But I'm wondering, though, how has this pandemic affected the project?
Well, the pandemic has affected the process tremendously in that I now have to have a radio launch. I was initially planning to have an event where, perhaps on the fringe of the Bocas Lit Fest, which had to be canceled, we would have had a lot of people in town, literary people, and it would have been a good opportunity to do a fringe event where I had a listening party and I played the album and all that. But because of the restrictions, not that it's any big magic, but I'm doing it on radio. The fact is that a lot of people are still at home and social distancing, physical distancing is still very much in effect. So I thought, I have a good relationship with my employer here at I-95.5 FM and a good relationship with my listeners as well. I think that I encounter a lot of people on the streets, in the supermarket, who may recognize me and have a genuine interest in me, or a love for my voice, or whatever the case may be. So I thought it best to just shelve the idea of a public listening party and take it to the radio. And, because it's audio format, it sort of fits perfectly as well with what we do at radio. Like, if what I was doing was paintings, I don't think it would have worked that well.
No. Yeah. In terms of, just under a minute to wrap up, but I'm wondering, who are some of the people who helped birth the project, And also, what would you define success of this project as? In the sense that some people want money, some people want listeners, some people want a combination. What will it take for you to say, okay, well, this was worth it?
It's already been worth it. A lot of people are telling me things like, this is really inspiring because it's something I've always wanted to do, and that's invaluable, you know, and a sense of achievement I attain from it. I'm not saying that, I'm not wanting it to sell, but I want it to sell because people like it and because it's good. Yeah, I want that as well. The other part of your question?
Wondering who are some of the people involved?
Contributors. Well, it was produced by Future Craft Studios. That's Afate, Ravi Maraj, who did a fantastic job. The creative director was Gillian Moore, singer-songwriter, who was in studio with me for the process and sort of fine-tuning things. Nasha Sampong, who is Lisa Allen Agostini's daughter and a young musician. She does a pan solo on one of the pieces called Pan Woman, which looks at relationships and the idea of abuse in relationships a little bit. And as well, Wendell Manwaran. I have to thank Wendell Manwaran because, you know, it's one thing to say, I have a great voice, but that doesn't mean you just go around using it as you think you should. You need direction, you need coaching, you need to bring the art out. And he was really helpful in that regard in terms of getting me to express myself as an artist and not a newsreader, you know, which might be the default speaking voice.
Totally. And we want to thank you for the time that you've taken with us, and we wish you all the best tomorrow and moving forward. That has been...
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's been... say it's 11 a.m.
Okay.
Barring a Ministry of Health COVID press conference that runs from 11. They should start at 10, I hope. Okay. But it's from 11 a.m. on 95.5 FM with audience. So it's due tomorrow morning.
Behave yourself, Sterling. But now it's been 2 weeks since golfers returned to the Millennium Lakes Golf and Country Club. The club, like all other sport, had to shut down because of COVID-19. Now, Vidya Ramphal and Rodney David visited the club to find out how well it's been coping. And Kent Fuentes has the story.
Millennium Lakes Administrator Lauren Lara said the first concern for administration was the well-being of the golfers and the business operations at the Trin City Golf Club. And measures were taken to ensure this was done.
I think because it was such a worldwide pandemic, you know, we were privy to what should be done prior to even the government having to explain what we need to put in place. So we quickly moved on having our sanitizing stations upgraded and basically changing what we knew prior to as the norm. And it was just basically everyone being able to get used to what we have to do going forward.
She added the members were receptive to the changes during the shutdown as they accepted they were in their best interest.
Because a lot of our members are over 60, I think they agreed with what we had to do. It was not anything that one person could help, and it was a better choice for everyone. It was safer for everyone to do what we had to do.
The course was maintained during the lockdown in the height of the dry season, and even that was done with strict social distancing principles.
We did not have a full maintenance crew. We had very limited staff just to make sure the basics were done. And once we knew that we would reopen, we would get everyone back out. And one good thing is that we are in dry season, so the rate of the grass was not growing as fast as it would have during the rainy season. So we were able to control a lot more. We had a lot more control at that point in time.
While the course has been opened to golfers, the clubhouse remains closed. Kent Fuentes, TTT Sports.
And that's what's trending on COVID-19. Remember, you can join us for live coverage on TTT, Chalk City 91.1 FM, Sweet 100.1 FM, Next 99.1 FM, as well as on Facebook at TTT Live Online for all your COVID-19 updates. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of the TTT crew, I'm Dike Rostant.